Hi, I'm Dan Strauss. I'm the managing partner of Thomas E. Strauss Incorporated. You'll often see me going through the smorgasbord, especially for just looking at it, checking up on things and making sure things are right. I'm always so proud of the people that work here because I've never really found anything wrong. You do such a great and perfect job, and that's usually why I'm smiling and handing out candy treats. People ask about the photo of me standing out in front of the smorgasbord with a rolling pin and an apron. And the story behind that was, from a very early age, my parents demanded that all the kids help out in some way. I remember my older brother, Tom, he ran we had like a Tasty Freeze kind of business off of the smorgasbord, and his job was to, run that. But one day I was working with Mrs. Weimer in the back kitchen, and if you're an old veteran of Miller's, you remember that. And we were producing pies for the dessert stations, and I had a part in the assembly line where I'm rolling out dough, and Mrs. Weimer would cut it, put it on, and pinch the edges, and we just kept things rolling along that way. So my dad got a new camera. So he got a new camera probably 2 times a year. And he had to try this out. So he came back and he noticed me there, and he grabbed me in the apron and took me up front, and I didn't want to go. I was right in the middle. What's everybody going to do? I had a work ethic. I didn't even know it. So they took me out front, still protesting, and I think they put the hat on me. I don't remember exactly. But I was asked to pose different ways with the rolling pin and so forth, and I kept asking, when can I get back to work? And finally they let me go. But that's the story behind the camera. There's another story where my dad had went to the Harrisburg Farm Show, and against my mother's permission, he went and bought the baby beef grand champion steer that was at the farm show. Well, a couple days later it had arrived, and again with the camera we had to have all these posed photos, and my mother stood beside my father and they took the picture. Everyone was smiling, though she was a bit forced, because I think that thing at the time was like $1,000 it came to, and that was a ton of money back in the day. So right after they stopped the photo shoot, the steer ended up stepping on my mother's foot and breaking it. Not enough that she needed surgery or anything like that, but she had to wear a cast for the 3 months, 4 months, or whatever it was, and that was always a reminder to my father to not do anything without them consulting each other. And she was pretty much a firm hand in the business and could sway decisions and issues like that. So, that's the story behind the baby beef, the big old cow. It was the Pennsylvania Grand Champion judged Angus steer. I remember Christmas parties. My mom would wrap presents for 2 days, just little things, finding all the boxes because they weren't really mass produced at that time, and putting everything in boxes and everything. And she would line the tables for the co-worker Christmas party with all these presents, and they would have bingo. And when somebody got a bingo, they grabbed a present. But I remember her working late into the night to produce all that holiday cheer for the restaurant. We were all only children, Don was 20 years older than me. Tom was 10 years older than me. And we had a brother, Fred, who was 5 years younger than me. And Fred passed away in 1994, and Tom most recently. But we were all, by the time I was 10 years old, Tom was 20, or when I was 6, he was 17, and had his own car. He had a Corvair, which my dad reluctantly purchased for him, and he wrecked on the bridge leading into Lancaster on an icy road. But anyway, it was kind of a dangerous car, and so Tom, like I said before, he ran the we called it the custard shop, which was more or less like a freeze and frizz. And Don, I never really knew much of Don because he went to, after high school, went right into Drexel University in Philadelphia for his electronics engineering degree. And then he came home and jumped right into working at RCA, which is now the Burlfinger building on New Holland Pike, and had a long and storied career there. I worked from the time I was 12 until I started my own business. I worked at different things. I remember one day getting really mad at my brother because he was kind of a manager at the time and I was a line cook. And I said, look, you know, I've had it here, I quit. And I went down the street to another tourism business. It was called Dutchtown and Country Inn. And I got a job as a line cook there, and kind of a journeymanship, if you will. And learned from an old Swiss chef. And I learned to make dishes to order. And it was probably the most hectic, sweaty, as fast as I could job that I ever had, because it was just a constant effort to get orders grouped together, tables of 6 and 8, and get them all out in one batch. And so then after that, I came back to work and I managed the Stuckey store. And then after that, I was married and then promoted to shipping and receiving and purchasing. And that's what a job I did for quite a few years. And we delivered baked goods to the southern market and central market in town. And also I was in charge of purchasing all the major food items for the restaurant. We didn't have Plain and Fancy or the 340 business at that time. But it was still a lot to do. And I think the kitchen managers received the produce and the dairy goods, but I was in charge of all the dry goods and meats and things of that nature. So I would award off of bid sheets and buy different things. And then I would hop on our 1946 Clark utility vehicle, which is another word for an antique tow motor. I kid you not, it had a wooden steering wheel. There was no plastic on it whatsoever. And this thing was a beast. I don't even think it ran and ran. We never had it serviced. But, you know, I would unload trucks and rotate inventory and take inventory and develop systems that had a constant awareness of what we had in inventory without using computers. I used little mini ledger sheets, and it was a crazy thing to keep everything balanced at all times. So, but I kind of really enjoyed that job because it was busy and it made time pass quickly, and it was a great 8 to 4:30 job where I got time to spend with my family. So that's the story of what I worked. So after that, I went and started my own lawn care business for a while. And after I got out of that, I came back to work again for the company and did so until now. If you want me to get into the mid-size story, then it's, Tom, we did billboards. I mean, we had to tear down the panels, have them repainted. Tom did most of that, and then put them up again in sometimes harsh conditions. And my company car was a Volkswagen Rabbit pickup truck. If you remember those, it was diesel, and we found ways of fixing ladders into the bed that we could move back and forth in front of the billboard panels and go up and paint them or mount them. Quite interesting, the variety of landscapes I had to navigate that pickup truck on to get the quite right height to get up there and monkey with the panels. And I had developed a system where I put the nail on the side of the hammer and I swung out and set the nail, and I would swing back holding on with my other arm and then go out, wham the nail in as my brother and the other maintenance guy held the panel up in a precise way. And they had to struggle to do that while I nailed the first couple nails in to keep it just right. And I remember one day in particular, we were working on the billboard in front of the on Route 41 coming in toward the Lincoln Highway. And I was up on top of the billboard, which I'm 45, 50 feet out in the air, and we were removing the face. And previous to that, we had cleared all the brush in front. So I'm up on top and I'm whamming away with a crowbar in my hand, trying to get this panel off. And it was put on with screw nails, which are very difficult to dislodge. But anyway, I missed at one point and I hit my forearm on something like a stringer. That's the lateral mounting boards. And I passed out on top of the billboard. And when I came to, I'm still, by the grace of God, hanging there. And I crawled down and I told my brother, Tom, that my arm was killing me. It really, really hurt from where I struck it. And he said, put some dirt on it, walk it off, And I said, no, I think I need to go into the hospital. So we finished the job and I ended up going into the ER, and they looked at it and they said, they took x-rays. It's not broken, but it's got some soft tissue injury. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a cast on it so you can sleep better. And I thought, okay, that's a plan. The middle of the night, I woke up, my arm is on fire. And I thought, this is crazy. I went in and literally chewed the cast off of my arm to get to it. And the story is, when we cleared the brush in front of the thing, there was poison ivy in the brush. So it sprayed my arm with poison ivy, and then they put a cast on top of that. So it was a delightful evening. But part of the adventures of doing that, we got it down to a really good system, and as far as putting up the new boards and taking down the old, I think it was all about the aggregate effort of the whole family. Even at young ages, we just did what we needed to do, and you didn't clock out at a certain time. You stayed there and worked until the job was done. And sometimes you got off early, and most of the time it was working out late.